Okay, everyone, apparently we have unlocked the multiverse in One Piece. Or maybe not. I'm not really sure. That's what we're here to discuss today. But that's the fun of the multiverse. In one reality, things happened. In another reality, they didn't happen. And in a third reality, they all happened everywhere all at once at the same time. Does that make any sense? I don't know, but that's theoretical physics for you. I want you to imagine a reality. I want you to imagine a version of yourself right now where everything is the same except you're wearing a different shirt. I know, it changes everything, right? Infinite possibilities stretching out along a plane of time and space in infinite directions. We can't hope to possibly comprehend it, all right? In fact, I want to see if I can access a parallel dimension of myself right now. Haha! It worked! Check it out, Perry! I have a mustache! Aw, it's gone. Alright, well, changing in and out of realities of dimensions. It's apparently easier than it looks. Okay. Chapter 1118, spoilers of One Piece. If you haven't read it, go and check it out. I did a review of it yesterday. Okay, so at the end of the chapter, something happened with Bonney's ability. It's a little bit contentious, maybe, so we'll dive into it here. We're not even really actually talking about the contention of what happened. We're more about talking about the logistics of how it happened in this video, okay? So at the end of the chapter, Luffy goes into Gear 5 to fight against the Gorosei that are descending upon the Great Eric, the Elbaf ship that's departing Egghead. You have Marcus Mars arriving as his Itsumade giant yokai bird. He fires an energy fire laser at the ship. Some of the giants block it, but it's looking like it's going to be kind of difficult to deal with this guy, considering you can't really kill the Gorosei. They heal immediately. Luffy's down in the kitchen gorging himself. He comes back out. He activates Gear 5. There's this massive earthquake that just happens in the water where the ship and everything is just bouncing around. It really does seem like Luffy, like maybe it's through the sound reverberations of the beat of the drum. Maybe that did it or something, or maybe it really is him turning the ocean into rubber. I'm not really sure. But anyway, he shows up in Gear 5, and then he goes up to Bonney and is like, hey, Bonney, you should go into the same form as well, and then we can fight these guys together. And Bonnie's like, I have no idea how to do that, you know? Still, by the way, referring to Luffy as Nika, the sun god that her dad worshipped. You know, they had a whole religion based around this. Like, Kuma walked around with the Bible, right? And now all of a sudden, Luffy's like Jesus. He's like right here. He's just like, hi, Bonney. And Bonnie's like, okay, hello? My dad prayed to you, I guess. I don't know. So, Luffy's like, yeah, I don't know how your power works, but it seems like you should be able to do this the same as me, so go ahead and try it. And Bonney thinks back to, you know, Luffy talking about being the most free earlier on in the arc when they first met, you know, when they first got to Egghead. And so Bonnie's like, all right, I will imagine a version of reality with my distorted future where I am the most free. And then she transforms into the sun god form, the exact same form Luffy's in, with the white hair and the white outfit and the ribbons and everything, and like the jolly nature, and be like, yeah, let's go. And there's two of them now. Oh god, now there's two of them, right? And the giants all begin dancing, and Mars is kind of looking at this like, I don't know, and then that's where the chapter ends. There's a really great scene when Luffy is like, let's go, Bonney, let's fight. And then Bonney just kind of turns to Luffy and has this smile. It's like the joyousness of the sun god, but also it's more about like, yeah, like all of the stuff that Bonney has been through in this last arc, you know, all of the trauma that has been just cycling back, you know, the stuff that happened before she reached there with her dad and finding out about her mom through the memories and everything. It reached a point here, this is like its crescendo, where Bonney looks at Luffy while she is in this form, and she just kind of has this expression of, yeah, let's go. Like, everything's gonna be okay. I am free now. Let's do this, right? Let's fight against the Gorosei. Let's get out of here. And I got my dad, you know, Kuma's going to escape. Maybe we could, you know, figure out some way to save it. Like, there's hope now. There's hope. And that's the whole idea of Nika. That's the whole idea of the sun god, right? That there's hope. He's a being that slaves prayed to, that one day they would be free. All right? So it all kind of ties together there. So that's a really nice moment for Bonney. If nothing else, you have to say, Bonney kind of deserves this. She deserves the feeling of hope and freedom despite all the crap she's been through, all right? So, I have 3 explanations for how this is happening, all right? One of them I talked about in the review, that the main idea was like multiverse, because that's a cool idea, right? There's another one I brought up at the very end, and then another one that I've seen around, and I didn't bring it up in the review, but I saw a few people mentioning it in the comment section. That is also, I don't think is the case, but you might as well bring it up for the sake of completion, right? So let's dive into the multiverse idea first and foremost, okay? So if, and this makes sense because Bonney has a paramecia, the power of the Toshi no Mi, the age fruit. Up until now, we've seen her being able to shift between, different ages in her own life. She could turn into a wrinkly old woman. She could turn into a child. She could turn into an adult, all that kind of stuff, right? But she also had an ability called Distorted Future, and she showcased that off relatively early on in Egghead, where she had this giant muscular form that she could just go into all of a sudden. And even in like the first chapter where she used that ability, it's like, whoa, okay, are we getting multiverses, like parallel universes into this? Like a universe where Bonney is like super buff, or a universe where she's a giant, or a universe where she is like maybe smarter or something like that. Like, are we accessing this through her power? Which is something that makes sense given the nature of her devil fruit, but also, that opens the floodgates for a lot of different opportunities, okay? I brought up an example in the chapter, could Bonney, pick up a sword and then use Distorted Future to give me a future where I'm a sword master, right? So she turns into a form of herself that's, trained in the sword for her entire life, and she's on the level of, Zorro. Could she just do that? All right? Now, it is temporary. That is the case. There is a caveat to that. Whenever she does use Distorted Future, she just used it a few chapters ago to turn giant-sized, and she was only able to, achieve that form for a little bit, and then afterwards she's like, I can't go right back into it. I need to kind of rest for a bit to recharge this. So there is a time limit, right? But still, the infinite possibilities of the multiverse are, in an effect, infinite. So, yeah, she could do that. There is an upper ceiling with this. The example I gave in the chapter review was she can't just turn herself into an all-powerful god, an all-powerful deity that could snap her fingers and wipe out the universe or restart a universe. There's limits to that. So let's take that off the table, right out of the cuff, okay? There's no way she could do something like that, right? No. There's no way that she could do something like that, right? She might not be able to break the laws of the physics of the One Piece world as we know them. One such example is when Toki was explaining how time travel works. She says, you cannot travel back in time. It's not a thing that's feasible. I don't think Bonney can be give me a future where I have complete control of the time stream. I don't think she could do that, all right? But when it comes to changing her physical self, and that's the whole point of her devil fruit, it's interesting. I guess it might be awakened. You want to say it is, right? You want to say she has an awakened devil fruit because of all the crazy stuff. Dude, if she could transform into Gear 5th just like that, damn straight she's awakened, because she's able to use her powers on other people around her. She turned the 2 Vice Admirals, Bluegrass and Doll, and that giraffe into a child in the last chapter. So, and she was able to do that back at Sabaody even. She was even able to turn, the Marines into children and old men, even though she wasn't, directly in contact. She was, way on top of a building. So, you want to say, if she is awakened, that does make sense. It's just she awakened her powers when she was really young. But then again, being the user of the Toshi no Mi might give you a leg up on that competition. She might be give me a future where I'm an awakened devil fruit user, and then she knows how to do it all of a sudden. This really might be the most broken fruit in One Piece if we can explore everything that she can do with it. Just from what we saw in the last chapter with her going into Gear 5th, the same form that Luffy had to wait until, this is a form of the zone that Luffy has that he had to awaken. That took Luffy years of training with his devil fruit, and he never awakened it until he fought with Kaido. Bonney's able to just skip over all of that and just go into the form, right? So if she could do something like that, why couldn't she just be I'm awakened my devil fruit now? Boom, okay. And if she can just do that, then other than the ultimate ceiling of really messing with reality beyond that, in terms of transforming herself into anybody with any sort of skill set, with any power set, she might be able to do that. In fact, you know what? I'm not even going to say probably. she can. We saw her do it. If she can go into Gear 5th like that, by just imagining herself being free, which keyword being imagining herself being free. We'll get back to that in the next explanation. But if she could just go into Gear 5th, like, oh, I have this power now. Okay, Luffy, let's go. She could turn into a great swords woman. She could have the power of the Maramara no Mi, or the power of the cold fruit, like Aokiji's fruit. She could basically access any version of reality where she consumed any devil fruit. If it is the multiverse, and if she has access to Gear 5th, then there is no, like, I want a future where I'm a dragon, and then she has the power where she turns into a dragon. And you would sit there and be like, that is hideously insane. Like, why would Oda do that? Well, he did it. He did it. That's in the story. It happened now. That is canon. And I've always been under the impression with Oda, whenever something big like this happens in the story, whenever something crazy that you didn't expect to happen, like Bonney getting the powers of Gear 5th Luffy, I always am like, all right, Oda, we will see where this goes. We will see how you tackle this, all right? It just happened at the end of the last chapter. She had the power. We don't know really anything else about this or where this is going or if there's a time limit or a limitation or anything like that, so we're going to have to wait and see. But, yeah, like, if this is accessing the multiverse, then there's no reason why she wouldn't be able to do all that stuff. Not a probably, not a maybe. She would, okay? Now, going into the next explanation, which might actually hold more water than the multiverse explanation, but still is every bit as broken. The imagination angle. The imagination. Bonney is still a child. She is 12 years old, right? And so she's a kid that has an active imagination, right? So, like, she's probably still believes in Santa and stuff like that, right? What if the power of the Toshi Toshi no Mi is she can turn into whatever form her imagination sees her as? This has credulity because we, saw in the last battle with Saturn when being attacked by Saturn, and she tried to use her powers to attack him. They waned a little bit, and Saturn was discussing this, like, your powers are not going to work now because you understand that, like, it's basically a false god you've been worshiping, right? Like, Nikai is not real. He's not going to show up and save you. He was just a figment of your dad's, like, imagination or whatever. And her own opinion on that, on the sun god, has changed at that point, and she was, like, feeling, like, really dejected and like, oh, there's no hope, there's no way, like this is the cold, hard reality of life. These fantastical things do not exist, okay? And because of that, it directly influenced her power where it made it weaker. A lot of people have theorized that this devil fruit is really powerful when you are a child because you have this active imagination and you feel like you can be anything, right? Maybe if you're a child and you're like, I want to be a dragon, you do turn into a dragon, or I want to be a giant, you turn into a giant, it's like that youthful imagination of, like, you're out there playing with your friends and you're playing pretend and you have imaginary friends and you can be anything and you can do anything, right? And then reality hits you with a sledgehammer and it's just like, nope, here's cold, hard reality. Boom! So the older you get with this devil fruit power, you start to realize that you can't become anything. You can't turn into a giant. So therefore, the power is forever lost to you. And you might still be able to use it. You can make yourself, like, younger or older or things like that, but you won't be able to use distorted future as much. Or if you do use it, it'll be a very limited capacity. Like, you're working at an office and you're like, man, this sucks being just a regular salary man. I will use distorted future to make myself a middle manager. And your, like, name tag just changes a little bit and your office gets, like, slightly bigger. Like, ha ha ha! I have access to all these crazy realities. Back to work. I want to imagine a future where I'm the CEO. Yeah, you're right. I'm never going to be the CEO of this place. This sucks. But it's sad and depressing, honestly, but that would maybe affect you if it is an imagination-based devil fruit, if you could just turn into whatever, right? It also ties back into what Vegapunk was saying, right? The idea of desire, the idea of, like, the devil fruits exist because each one represents a different path of evolution that humanity could potentially take. It's a question now, honestly, not just for Bonney's devil fruit, but for the existence of all devil fruits, for example. Like, is it a multiverse question? Like each devil fruit represents a different chain in evolutionary line, like where, you know, humans can become giraffes with the like zones and animals and stuff, or humans can become weapons like the Buki Buki no Mi, or humans can channel the elements, like it's a multiverse thing, and that's where devil fruits come from, you know, where, I don't know, the One Piece world is like a nexus point of dimensions. Or is it a thing of literal imagination and desires and dreams where somebody really, really, really wanted to be a jacket? I don't know why. I don't know why anyone wanted to be a jacket, but at some point, somebody wanted to be a jacket. And they're like, okay, well, the jacket fruit came into existence because of that, right? So it ties not just back into Bonney's fruit, but devil fruits at large. So, and it's no probably coincidence that Vegapunk explained this concept in the same arc that we're learning about Bonney's ability, right? So, yeah, she sees Luffy in Gear 5th, and she's like, you know, maybe I can do that too, and she believes in herself and believes herself to be free, and she can just access those powers. There you go. She imagines herself as a giant, so she takes the form. She imagines herself as big and muscular, and she can fight, and then she is. Like, that just is that simple, okay? And as long as she has a positive outlook on those things, she can achieve those forms. Once again, I mean, still, it's not accessing other dimensions, but it's still a pretty broken power, certainly. You know what? Bonney really, and I felt this with her flashback, too, when we learned about, you know, her going out to sea and everything like that. It's like, in another version of reality, maybe this is what Oda's going for, in another version of reality, Bonney is the main character of One Piece. Because she is giving off some, like, protagonist energies with the way that she left her hometown, and it was paralleled with Luffy's a little bit. Like, you can imagine in an alternate universe, One Piece, except it's about a girl that has the ability to take whatever form she wants and creates a pirate crew and goes on kind of the same adventure as Luffy, wanting to find her dad. You know, Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, you know, Bonney wants to find her dad. So a goal out in the Grand Line, going on grand adventures. You could kind of see that, and you could see it more than other members of the Supernovas or other characters of One Piece. There's certainly other characters that you could focus on. As like, I would read a One Piece story where the main character was Shanks. I mean, wouldn't you? But, like, out of all the other Supernovas, like, that protagonist energy doesn't come off of Beiji or Hawkins or Drake. Would you want to read One Piece from the perspective of Drake? You don't have to lie. It's okay. Well, maybe. Nah, it's okay. You don't have to. There's different versions of reality. And, like, in our version, Luffy's the main character. One Piece is, like, the most popular manga in the world. Maybe there's another version where Bonney's the main character and it's also super popular. But then there's the version of One Piece where Drake is the main character, and it got canceled after, like, 5 chapters in Shonen Jump. It's like, nah, no one wants to... He's not a very dynamic main character. I'm sorry. Oh, who knows? Maybe... I'm shitting on Drake for no reason. It's just like, to me, he's one of the more boring members of the Supernovas. He's not that bad, though. I really don't hate him, but, like, you know. Anywho, it's the same thing with Atlas. Like, I honestly don't have a problem with Atlas. It's just kind of fun to pick one member out of this group and be like, that's the one I'm just gonna shit on the entire time. And in the case with the satellites, it just ended up being Atlas. But anyway, and then with the Supernovas, it's Drake. Okay, so that's the imagination angle, you know, okay. There's one more angle with this that I've seen a few, but not that many people. I think most people are focusing on the imagination or the multiverse aspect of her power. But there's one more idea that actually has little to do with Bonney and everything to do with Luffy. And it is that Luffy's power can be shared with other people. So Luffy, because he's in Gear 5th and is the sun god, and the whole aspect of Nika is freedom. The freedom to be whoever you want to be. The freedom to cast off the shackles and just move forward. And, I mean, we clearly see Bonney using Distorted Future to go in that form, so that's why this is a little bit, like, iffy. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe it's because of Luffy's assistance that Distorted Future would even work. You know what I mean? So the idea that Luffy can be like, hey, you want to be the sun god as well? I could share my powers with you. Or if you just gaze upon me, you should be able to take that form, right? And then Bonney went into that form, okay? Now, I don't think this is the case. because, like I said, we've been focusing a lot on Bonney and her devil fruit ability for this arc, and we were setting up like distorted future. So it's like, okay, it makes sense she could go into this form. I mean, maybe you do not like the implications of like how she could just break the power systems of everything, of every devil fruit. Could she just like, I want to imagine a future where I'm a master of all types of hockey? Like, could she just do that? Who knows? Maybe you don't like that idea, but the setup for her going into this form was established earlier on in this arc. So that's the reason I don't think it's Luffy doing that. I'm also, I mean, there's a bias there because I'm not really particularly a fan of the main character's ability being able to be shared with every single person around him. You know, like I have seen some really, but then again, I also trust Oda. So it's a constant tug of war here between me not liking a particular trope and Oda's writing. You know, because I always want to see a version of like, okay, Oda spins a trope that I usually don't like, but does it in a way that's a little different and a way that I actually do like. It's like, ooh, that's impressive. You did a good job here. That's why I love One Piece. Oda is a good writer, in my opinion. So, maybe, if that is the reality, if Luffy is able to maybe directly or indirectly allow other people to share his power, and Oda writes it in a way that it makes sense, you know, like, maybe I will enjoy that. Maybe it'll be like, okay, we'll see here. I mean, the idea of the power itself is freedom. That is literally like Luffy is the avatar of freedom and hope when he goes into Gear 5th. Right? So it kind of does bend some of the rules already on where this is going. It isn't just like, hey, I am the main character of a manga and I have this very specific ability that's just to me. I will just give that to other people. You know, the fact that Luffy is the avatar of freedom and hope kind of lends it to be able to do that, maybe? And I don't know. I have also seen some fan art online of all of the Straw Hats having the power of the Sun God. You know, so it's like, here's Zoro with white hair. Here's, you know, Nami with the power of Nika. Here's Frankie walking around with it. Here's Chopper in monster form. You know, like he's like, you know, basically like a mink at that point in Sulong. You know, and I gotta tell you, and they're all laughing and having a fun time. And that fan art looks really cool of, you know, the Straw Hats in that form. You know what I mean? But would that work thematically? That's, for me, that's like a little bit of a tightrope walk for Oda. Like, if you're going to go that direction with it, where the Straw Hats are in their final battle at Laugh Tale, and Luffy goes into Gear 5th, and then he uses a power, and all the Straw Hats all gain the power at once, probably only temporarily. Like, I can give you my power temporarily for 5 minutes. You know, like, oh, damn it. I mean, it would look cool. You gotta say, all the Straw Hats in Gear 5th, that would look cool as shit. But is looking cool as shit more important than, like, the themes or the stuff, not themes, what word am I thinking of here? Maybe the tone of what you're going for, I guess, is like, would that work? Would that work? Would you be okay with that, is my question, all right? Like, even if it was, like, the final battle of the story, and they only have the form for like 5 minutes, and after that they can't go into it anymore, and it's more of just a buff. It's more of just like an ultimate, like I could just buff you guys really briefly, and that's all I can do. You know, would you be okay with that? But maybe, but then again, it's the thing, well, that takes away something special from Luffy, but they're also his nakama, they're his friends. Like, if Luffy could share his power with other people, he would. At least the people that he likes, the people that are his friends and are his family, Luffy would do that, right? Like, it's kind of a thing. So, it's a question. I'm conflicted. I'm not sure. But that's that. That's the last idea. The idea of the power sharing ability, of the idea of everybody becoming free at once. At the end of One Piece, every person in the world, every citizen in the world becomes Nika. Just like, I don't know. These are always my favorite parts of One Piece, where something crazy happens at the end of a chapter, and I've always talked about theories as like you're taking a bunch of darts and you're throwing them at a dartboard, right? Sometimes you hit the dartboard, sometimes you hit the bullseye, sometimes you miss and you hit the wall on the other side of the room, right? That's basically theories, but you just keep throwing darts. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad theories, but it's like, you know, you never know. Just keep throwing darts and eventually you might hit something, right? And that's the idea. So when something like this happens, it's just like you have a shitload of darts. It's like someone just gives you a bucket of darts, and it's like you move further away from the dartboard, and you're like, you know, it's like something's got to stick somewhere. You know, like, it's insane. There's so many ideas of where this could go. But there's no break next week, so we'll see pretty soon how it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching signing out. A multiverse where I wear a funny hat.